All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Behind the Agency, where I dig into uh, the growth journeys of different agency founders, everything from the wins to the challenges and mistakes. And today I'm excited to have Ivy Hastings, who is the CEO of Fusionbox, on the show. They're a custom Python development agency, and they do some UI and UX stuff as well. Thanks for coming on the show, Ivy.
Thanks for having me, David.
Awesome. Well, the place I always like to start these is understanding kind of your origin story. I know Fusionbox was started all the way back in 2002, and
Yeah.
you've probably seen a lot as far as economic things and whatnot over the years. But I'd love to hear about kind of the early days and what inspired you to start the agency.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was a long, long time ago. And this was really during the first internet boom. So at the time, my husband and I, so it was like 1999 or like a long time ago, we were both working at an internet startup on a big, big project. It was like a $30 million project. It had funding and everything was going great. There were investors, great team, great product. And so he and I decided to go on vacation. We went to Mexico, and for like 4 days we came back. We went to work and the doors were locked and the company was shut down, and that was it. So we were both out of jobs at the same time with no notice. So that was, when something like that happens, you get creative. So he really saw a need for custom design and software development. These are the days when there was no Squarespace, no Wix, no WordPress even. There was, nothing.
Right.
You could have some designers, but there wasn't a lot of agencies or companies doing custom design or custom software development. So he started the company. He's a programmer by trade. And I actually went and off and got a corporate job. And I couldn't stand it. I was 2 years in and coming home crying every day, and it was just awful. And he had started, and he got one client, and I don't know how he got it, but somebody just heard what he was doing, and it ended up being QuickBooks, Intuit. Oh, wow. Somehow out of San Francisco, right? So yeah, it was a pretty good first client to have. I was miserable, and he said, quit your job and come work a Fusionbox with me. And at this time, we really didn't, it was one client. And although it was a big name, they weren't paying our bills, right? And so it was a big risk, but I was miserable. So I quit, and we started working out of our homes and, just struggling. And we really weren't getting any business. I'm like, people weren't, we were sitting around by the phone waiting for somebody to call. And so I started kind of looking into SEO, and I started doing our SEO on our site and some link building, and, one thing led to another. And we just, all of a sudden, the phone was ringing. We had so many leads, we were ranking first for our keywords, and the business just started growing and growing. At that point, we were doing kind of website designs with content management systems. And so I know the next question you were going to ask me is how we went from that. And we were full service. So we were doing design, CMS, we're doing SEO, we're doing some more internet marketing, email marketing, all of that, full service. And client, and somehow we kept really hiring and recruiting really, really good programmers, excellent programmers. And I think that's probably because my husband was such a good engineer, and he really knew how to attract really good engineers. So we were just attracting all these great engineers. And one day they came to us and said, we want to do Python. We want to write in Python. I think we were doing PHP at that time. So it wasn't for us a conscious business decision. We found this niche and we're really going to go for it. I was really nervous at the time because I'm clients aren't going to want Python. They're going to be scared away. Well, it turned out no one asked. They didn't care. They didn't care what we were writing in. And it made our engineers like very happy because they got to write in the technology that they wanted.
That's super interesting. And I know folks who like, yeah, like an agency I work with, they focus just on Ruby,
Yeah.
but like it's like, okay, this is our preferred uh, language of choice that we're going to be working in. And yeah, I think it helps from a staffing point. Like you can kind of bring on more of the right people, and it can be kind of a differentiator too. It's like, yeah, we're not going to try to be everything to everyone. We're picking a lane and we're being public about what that lane
Yeah.
is. And so if there are people who are like, you know what, I don't just need like, another custom software agency. I need, something specifically around Python. It's like, oh, well, you end up going to the top of the stack
Yeah.
and they're exploring options there.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
that's exactly what happened. It became our niche. And, so clients would seek us out for custom Python and Django programming because that's what we did. And that's all we did. We didn't do that and Ruby and, whatever else. Like we were very, very focused.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, I know that the advice to niche down, a lot of people say it. A lot of agencies are nervous about it and reluctant to do it. And you have kind of an atypical story where it wasn't necessarily like, you know, as a CEO being like, hey, I did some business research and we're going to go this direction. It was actually like your team being like, this is what we want to do. And that kind of led to that shift. I
Yeah.
guess, can you talk about what went through your mind and maybe how, from a business standpoint, it actually ended up working out?
Yeah. I mean, I think it worked out because the clients who wanted Python were Python enthusiasts and they got to talk to a team of, very passionate Python engineers, and having that team being very passionate about it, like recruited other engineers who are really great. And, that means higher quality and that means clients that are happier and you get like just great people working together.
Yeah.
And, at the time I was like, well, they're telling us what to do. Okay. It's like,
No, it has to be like kind of a nerve-wracking sort of thing. Like, I hope this doesn't make our agency implode because,
right.
there's maybe not a lot of market research involved in this. It's just kind of being like, this is what we want to focus on.
Yeah,
But it
there
worked
was.
out.
And then there ended up being, quite a bit of need. And we would have just cornered that more. And at that time, and that was probably 15 years ago or something like that, that we made that
Hmm.
decision. There weren't all that many competitors. There weren't that many clients like seeking out, Python. But when they were and they came to us, they were like, oh, you guys can handle this. You're a
Yeah.
good fit.
No, that's a good, really good point. Well, I mean, I think the positioning is one piece of the puzzle, but actually, when they come to you, then it's a matter of you, having a conversation, and that's, your sales, your client relations, that whole thing. I know that that's kind of a unique thing that you're really proud of. Fusionbox is kind of your approach to sales and customer relations. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks for you and kind of why you landed on that approach?
Yeah, often we always include our engineers in sales calls, which is, kind of maybe a little bit unusual. And even when they're, especially when we have technical clients, but even when we don't. And it's a
Hmm.
very conscious decision to like have those clients be speaking with who they're going to be with whom they're going to be working, right? Like,
Hmm.
and so it makes them feel like it's like, oh, you're going to be working with Gavin on this. He's on the call and he starts asking really good questions and having curiosity and just like almost like starting to problem solve in that first, even initial sales call. So they already feel like they're working with us. So it creates like a trust and a relationship and a bond. when we can be solving their problems right away. And it's not like, okay, what do you need? What's your budget? Those kinds of bant questions.
Yeah.
It's really like, here's the team you're working with, and let's dig in right away. And I think it creates this like commitment of a relationship almost, because they feel like this trust with us. So
is there like any sort of traditional sort of sales approach kind of woven into that, or is it really just like asking good questions that show sort of that technical expertise, and that you're kind of ready to like get into the weeds and figure out problems with them, that like just kind of naturally evolves into a sale? Or
yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know, like some people, I really am a fan of spin selling. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a very old method. It's you ask situation, spin, it's an acronym for situation, problem, implication, need. So situation is like, why are you talking to us today? What is it that you need? And then what's the problem that you're having? So a lot of the work that we take on is, what we had talked about, project rescue work. Like there's a client who lost their team, or they lost their engineer, or they can't get something across the finish line. So we kind of have them talk about that problem. And I think when you become human to that, right? So here I am, and this is my business, and I have this piece of software, and I don't have anybody taking care of it. I don't have a team I can rely on. And it's a very like vulnerable place to be. And so like making them feel like, yeah, that's high stakes. It's important, and we understand what it's like to be in that situation, and we're going to help you. So like, not just like, all right, what is it that you need on paper? Here's a menu, but like why and what's going on. And okay, if you don't solve that, you could go out of business, or it's high stakes. So what are the implications of not getting the right team? So implication questions, SPI implications, like, so what does it mean if there's a bug and you can't get new clients signed up? Well, you lose revenue, and then finally you get to like, okay, what is it the need that you need? What is it? You need a full-time engineer. And also really understanding like what's important to the client in like a partnership, and having them say that out loud, like what's important to you in a vendor. And then you can really listen and make them feel heard. And that tends to, then they, sign up. So we have like 30% closing rate when we get the right people in the door and they're a good fit, and then they feel comfortable with us.
Yeah. And you've also talked about kind of like your client relations approach. Does it kind of have that same sort of, I don't know, angle of just really trying to understand, like, and make your clients feel heard? Yeah.
It is. And, like I'm working with engineers, so I do a lot of coaching on like when something goes wrong and a client's upset, how do we respond? And I worked in restaurants for years and years. So I take some of those ideas, and one of them is like acknowledge, apologize, and then act, like 3 A's. And this sounds, they hear these things and they're like, oh God, there she goes again, Ivy, like our engineers with her little terms, but I'm like, really, like if you have something go wrong and you're upset with, a vendor, you want those 3 things, and it diffuses the situation completely, and then it creates more bonding, right, and more trust, I think.
Yeah. And trust is so huge. I mean, both for closing clients, but also for retaining them.
Them. And that's another thing, is like I tell our team all the time, like the sales is not done when they hire us and they send the check. It continues, especially right after they do that. Like we have to be on the ball and polished, and then it keeps going, because we don't do scopes of work, we do time and materials. And so many of our clients are like spending money with us for years and years and years. And so we really have to keep them like happy and engaged. It's not like, here, we delivered the thing and then we move on. Like we stay with them for many years.
many. And you have clients that you like have been around for quite a long time, right? From what
Yeah,
you were
10
telling me
years.
earlier.
Yeah, 10. We got one on 10 years now. And I have team members on. Well, I have our long-term designer, Justin, has been with us for like 18 years. So
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty proud of that. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was gonna say retention is also important on the staff side of things. I think that
Yeah.
kind of goes to show like your culture and just the environment that you're cultivating as an agency is a good one, because I think,
Yeah.
that's can sometimes be a problem in agencies where a lot of the team feels like they're kind of being put through a meat grinder or something like that, like this high stress, lots of fires to put out all the time,
Right.
and it can be kind of a high stress environment. But if you can, niche down and really focus in an area where your team is really enjoys the work, and it's like a good environment, as the team, can be a really it can translate to like longevity uh, for or for team retention.
Yeah. And client retention too, because they get to know
Yeah,
our team and they trust them, so.
yeah, it's like the
And
same
they're,
people for the long time.
yeah, it's not like, oh, now a junior person's getting put on, our project. I mean, we only have seniors on our team.
Yeah,
So,
or it's like, oh, I'm have like my third account rep, you know, over the life of our project, and you're like, okay, what's going on internally that they're going through, like I'm being switched to yet another person.
right,
It can kind
exactly.
of that can erode some of that trust that you've built up. So, well, I wanted to shift gears a little bit. In order to keep business coming in the front door, sometimes you have to put your expertise out there. Kind of tell people what you know. So I'd love to like understand how you kind of engage, how you share thought leadership. Do you do conferences? Do you publish things anywhere? Kind of how do you engage with your target audience?
We have done some like going to conferences, but that's really been for our team. So PyCon, we've been to that many times, but that's really for our team's benefit. And then if we happen to meet people, really, what's worked for us over the years is SEO and paid search. And so we're really doing like mostly inbound. So we're not doing a ton of like content marketing or outreach or conferences or much of that at all. And I think of course it really helps that we're so niche. It's like a client needs senior Python engineers based in the US, and that's what they're looking for, and that's who we are. So that's been
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah, I'd imagine like if you're some sort of like full service thing and you're trying to do like paid search, number one, there's going to be a lot of competition, but also people like you might get a lot more bad fit leads coming in.
Right.
Whereas when you have that like really strong focus, it's like people are already pretty sure that they need what you have
Right.
when they come in through the front door. Do you
Yeah,
have any sort of
exactly.
other tips for um, agencies that are exploring using uh, like search advertising, like as far as like how to do it well or what not to do, anything like that?
I mean, it is like the very much niche, you know, focused keywords. We do get quite a lot of traffic to our site based on our blog, which has some really great articles on Python. Like, so it would be how to solve certain problems.
Mm-hmm.
So we do get some like community goodwill and some attention that way, but those aren't usually potential clients, right? It's like a programmer looking to solve a particular issue. But every
Right.
once in a while, like we had a great client come through the door because they were looking to try to solve an issue. They were trying to do it themselves. And they came to one of our articles and then they found the answer and they're like, oh, these guys could do it better than, I could, and we'll hire them on. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that stuff, it showcases your authority, even if it's kind of done for the peer community, it also works as like, uh, showing credibility that
Right.
you're really good in that area. And so,
Right.
like you said, it's like, well, I could try to do this myself, or I could just hire them to do it, and probably have them do it better than I can.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. Um, well, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was kind of your engagement model.
Mhm.
I know you do something that I thought was pretty creative with your project rescue model. Can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that, and maybe just kind of how you think about kind of the models of engagements um, with with people who come in? Like, what are the different ways that they can engage with you?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, as I was saying earlier, it's like some of those clients come in with like an immediate need, right? So something's broken, or they need an upgrade, or they lost their developer, or whatever it might be. And, like, I think a lot of other companies might not take that on. And it's like, they're saying, oh, I don't know, it could be 20 hours or something. I just need this fixed. So we have one of those clients that came to us probably 7 or 8 years ago, needing a small fix. They just needed to get it across the finish line. So we thought that was it, and then we were going to be done. They lost their developer. The developer got a job or whatever it was. And now it's 8 years later with many, many sprints. And so I think we just came in. We kind of helped in a difficult situation, earned their trust, and now we're their vendor. And that model that we've used now is, we used to work like, okay, here's your scope of work, here's the pricing for everything. And in software development, that just doesn't work, right? Because you by design, you want things to be changing, right? As you're working on them, we want to be discovering things, we want to be making decisions, we want to be agile. So what we changed to was time and materials, and then a sprint model. So clients can buy a 2-week sprint. So you're thinking like, okay, God, I got to get a new software development team, right? Like, this is risky. The last people we hired were terrible, and I don't want to get in that situation again where it's like 8 months down the road and they haven't done anything, or whatever they've done has been poor, and I'm locked into this contract, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like you can try us out for 2 weeks and pay for that sprint, and there's no long-term commitment in terms of like retainer or contract. And so now, we have a client, they did sprint 1, we're doing sprint 1, and now they're on sprint like 637 or something like that. So, they go through those hours and then they buy another chunk, and so on and so forth. And so our clients have really loved that because it gives them the chance to like try us out. And if it's not a good fit for either of us, like, we don't have to go through a whole contract thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives them flexibility, and it honestly gives them time to build trust and decide whether they want to continue working. But
Right.
yeah, it's almost like a flywheel. You're kind of, by doing good work, you're just kind of building up that momentum, and until 600 sprints in or something,
Right.
like, it's humming along at a pretty good clip, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's worked well for us. And that's how we'll have a project rescue thing. And then the client will be like, oh, I love what you did with that. We also want to add this functionality, or that, we need to upgrade, or whatever it might be. And now we're, like, really their partner long term.
Yeah,
So it's been great.
absolutely. That's cool. Well, I mean, you've been doing this for over 20 years. Where do you see Fusionbox going in the future? Do you have big aspirations, or yeah, like, how long before you want to or I don't know, what do you see as like kind of the next iteration of Fusionbox?
Yeah, it's hard to know. We're in a pretty sweet spot. Like, we were 30 people when we were doing everything. And, it was pretty miserable. And the quality of our work wasn't great. And I wasn't happy, and our team wasn't happy. And really, by niching down and becoming really focused, like, our profitability is better and everybody's happier and our clients are happier. And so, I think I just want to continue on and keep the great clients that we have. So we just really have excellent partnerships with they're really great and I enjoy working with them. And so I'd like to, have a little bit more of that. And, it's hard. You never know what's going to happen. And, AI is going to replace all of us and all of that. But we're just going to keep plugging along and producing good work and keeping people happy.
Yeah. I think that's super important. Is at the end of the day, it's making sure what you're delivering is, your clients are happy. And a lot of times they'll do a lot of the hard work of referring other people your way and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe not like the only place you want new business coming from, but it certainly is it's a great way to get some really warm leads coming in that could turn into some other long-term clients.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, Ivy, this has been super fun. I know I learned a lot, just learning about kind of all the things that you've done over the years. If people want to connect with you, whether it's to do work or they just want to connect and compare notes with you as a fellow agency owner, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can LinkedIn or my email. It's ihastings@fusionbox.com. I love helping people and, giving any advice to people starting out or, no matter what it is, somebody's had that problem. It's really good to feel like there's enough room for all kinds of agencies and to really be here to help each other rather than compete. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. It was fun to have you.
Yeah. Thank you, David. I enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right. You too. Bye.